Have you ever noticed how different the light feels this time of year? Not just brighter, but slower somehow and softer around the edges. The evenings stretch out longer, the sunsets are longer, and even the air feels different in late June, like the whole world is exhaling. Like there's a shift happening, but we can feel it within ourselves too. Hello, and welcome to Torches, Yoga and Mindfulness. I'm Lauren, and I'll be your coach. If you're curious about mindfulness, healing, and practical habits that actually work, you're in the right place because here we focus on simple but powerful practices grounded in ancient wisdom and modern science to care for both our minds and bodies. So make sure you hit that like and subscribe so you don't miss what's next. Maybe you've felt a little more awake, a little more emotional. Maybe you've been craving fresh air, connection, movement, creativity, or simply wanting to step outside and sit in the warmth for a minute after spending so much time rushing from one thing to the next. This time of year can feel so significant because the 21st of June marks the summer solstice, the longest day of the year in the Northern Hemisphere, and officially the beginning of summer. So to take things back, the word solstice comes from Latin, sol meaning the sun, and sistere, which means to stand still. And that is such beautiful imagery because that's exactly what this time of year can feel like. Like the sun is hanging out with us a little bit longer. The earth is tilted at its maximum angle with the northern pole toward the sun during the solstice, which is why we experience so much daylight. And because of that angle, sunsets can almost feel suspended and drawn out. For thousands of years, humans have noticed and honored this time. So far back, in fact, the summer solstice has been celebrated since the Neolithic era, around 12,000 years ago, during the transition from nomadic hunter-gatherer life into settled agricultural communities. People depended deeply on the rhythms of nature, so the sun wasn't just symbolic, it was survival, warmth, food, and life itself. And across the world, people still celebrate this turning point in beautiful ways. In Sweden, communities gather to dance around flower-covered maypoles. In Alaska, there is a midnight baseball game played entirely without artificial lights because that far north, the sun barely even sets. In Puerto Rico, some people walk backward into the ocean at midnight as a symbolic cleansing release of negativity and a leap of faith into a new season. And at Stonehenge, people still gather to watch the sun rise aligned perfectly with the ancient stones, just like humans have done for generations. I love this idea that for thousands of years, humans have paused during this season to reconnect with something larger than themselves, to gather, to celebrate, reflect, honor the light, not productivity, not perfection, or proving that we're worthy in some way. And I think that is something a lot of us are quietly craving right now because our world moves really fast. We're constantly encouraged to optimize ourselves, improve ourselves, fix ourselves, grow faster, do more, become more. Even our healing journeys and our relationships with ourselves can sometimes start to feel just like another performance. But nature, she doesn't move like that. If you would like to incorporate some stones, oils, and herbs into your solstice practice to set your intentions or just to add another layer to your observance, I have some of my favorites here with us today. So, of course, we have to kick off this list with the sunstone. This was used historically as a navigation tool. So it's polarizing like our sunglasses, which means looking through the stone, if it were cloudy out, you would be able to see where the sun is to make sure you're navigating in the right direction. Citrine is a great companion for this time of year to bring clarity on the next steps in front of us. And the other one I brought today is carnelian because now I have one in my collection. And she is bright, joyful, and energizing, and is said to bring lightness to our emotional world. For herbs, I've brought St. John's wort. We've talked about her before in meditation videos about herbs like chamomile that are nervines, and they directly interact with our nervous system to help pull us out of slumps. St. John's wort has many benefits from alleviating stress and depression and healing minor skin irritations and wounds. Really a fascinating plant. Now, even though this dried version makes it hard to tell when it's blooming, the flowers have a beautiful yellow five-pointed star. And of course, sunflowers are a wonderful choice to help bring in the sun and cheer of the season to your home or office. And lastly, I have with me lavender, which has traditionally been harvested around the solstice time and makes a wonderful tea, blending it with chamomile and mugwort for a powerful tea for deep relaxation and connecting with your dreams. Just as a note of caution, mugwort will stimulate uterine contractions, so it should not be used by those who are pregnant. And if you are on medications and have never used nervines like chamomile or lavender, St. John's wort, please make sure to check with your doctor first because they can interact with those. If you can't do the herbs or you don't like the herbal teas, you can use oils in your practice and celebration. Of course, for the solstice, that means we could use lavender or chamomile oils, citrus oils that are bright and energizing, or mint, lemongrass, and bergamot are a couple of my favorites. Okay, the solstice reminds us that there are seasons for expansion, but there are also seasons for nourishment and tending. There's a time to notice what is already growing inside of us instead of constantly searching for what we should add. That's the lesson this season brings. Not how can I become more, but what in my life is already alive and asking for care. And really, that's the hardest part. We overlook what's already here because we're so focused on what's coming next. Maybe that's a relationship we've been neglecting because we've been too busy surviving. Or our creativity is trying to come back through after a period of burnout. Maybe it's our nervous system asking for a rest instead of more pressure. Maybe your body is asking for sunlight, movement, hydration, fresh foods, slower mornings, or deeper breaths. The solstice has a beautiful way of illuminating things. Sometimes it reveals the beauty we've been too distracted to notice, and sometimes it reveals what's no longer sustainable, like the patterns we outgrow and the stress we normalize, or how we've become so fixated on our schedules or the other end of the spectrum, and we're just detaching from everything and everyone. And when we have that awareness, it isn't so we can recognize a failure. It's just clarity, learning how we've been holding ourselves. Judgment doesn't come with clarity. Mindfulness is learning how to notice what we're carrying, what we're feeding, and what we're circulating every day through our thoughts, our words, attention, energy, and our nervous system. Because what we circulate grows. If we continually circulate stress, urgency, criticism, and overwhelm, eventually our inner world starts to feel crowded and exhausted. But if we begin circulating presence, compassion, connection, creativity, rest, honesty, gratitude, care, those things begin to grow too. And summer naturally invites that circulation. Fresh air moving through, long conversations with people we love, spending time outside, gardening, walking, cooking with fresh herbs, the sunlight on our skin, and the evening light filling the house into the later hours. These little moments may seem small, but they reconnect us with being alive instead of just being busy. And maybe that's why humans have honored this season for so long. Not because the solstice magically fixes our lives, but because it reminds us to pause long enough to actually experience them. It reminds us to remember that we are part of nature, not separate from it, and we are allowed to move in rhythms too. We're allowed to rest, to soften, to recalibrate, to change direction, release what no longer fits, and to nourish what does. So maybe sometime this week, we don't need to make some massive life overhaul. Maybe we just open a window, enjoy a sunset, or reconnect with someone we love. Or maybe we take a slow walk without the headphones for once and let ourselves actually hear the birds and the wind and the world around us and ask ourselves, what in my life is already growing that deserves more care? We spend so much of our life trying to force ourselves to bloom faster, but nature rarely rushes that way. The solstice reminds us that growth is not only about becoming more, it's also about learning how to care for what is already alive within us. Friend, thank you so much for joining me for this mindful solstice. Let me know in the comments if you have any plans for the 21st. And in the meantime, stay present, stay kind to yourself, and I will see you soon.